During its run, Batman the Animated Series captivated audiences with its iconic art design, complex characters, mature storytelling, and award-winning soundtrack. The quality of the writing in particular brought about a significant change to the mythology of the Dark Knight, some of which are still very much present to this day. Batman the Animated Series also created several brand new characters for the show that would go on to be so popular that they would eventually be brought into the DC Comics continuity. These included Gotham police officer Renee Montoya, diminutive former sitcom star turned supervillain Baby Doll, and my personal favourite, the Condiment King. But without question, the most famous character to impact DC Comics and mainstream pop culture would be Harley Quinn. Starting off as an enforcer / love interest for the Joker, for what was originally intended to be a one-off appearance, Harley Quinn would go on to become a regular part of the Joker's gang, and would also have several episodes focused purely on her. Dr. Harleen Frances Quinzel was first created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini for the Batman the Animated Series episode, The Jokers Favour. Dini thought the inclusion of a female character in the Joker's entourage would be a fun idea, and drew random inspiration from his college friend Arleen Sorkin, a former star of the US soap opera Days of Our Lives, who appeared in a dream sequence on the series in which she wore a jester costume. This was used as the inspiration for Quinn's design. Dini also incorporated aspects of Arleen Sorkin's personality and even got Sorkin herself to memorably voice the character, a role she would continue to reprise over the various series of the Bruce Timm DC era. Harley's increasing popularity over the years would see her appear in various other forms of media, Rocksteady's insanely successful Arkham games and their follow-up Suicide Squad, as well as several depictions in other animated DC properties. She's also had a very brief cameo in Arrow, played by actress Cassidy Alexa and voiced by Tara Strong. Random fact, at the time of this video, Tara Strong has voiced the character over 33 times. But Harlequin's most recognisable appearance in mainstream media is in the DC Cinematic Universe, played by Margo Robbie, which is the second best live-action casting of a comic book character. J.K. Simmons as J Johnna Jamison will never be topped. Which brings us to 2019's Harley Quinn. Written and executive produced by Justin Halpin, Patrick Schumacher and Dean Lorey, the series follows the misadventures of Harley Quinn and her best friend / partner in crime, Poison Ivy. After Harley finally has enough of being on the receiving end of the Joker's abuse and lack of respect for her ambitions and ideas, she breaks up with him, with the intention to make a name for herself as a top-tier supervillain, joining the ranks of the Legion of Doom, which is the villainous version of the Justice League, complete with company expense accounts and executive private bathrooms. However, the Legion is very much a boys' club, and has almost as little respect for her as the Joker. Refusing to quit, Harley begins to recruit her own team of Z-list villains to assist her in her criminal endeavours. Her roster soon includes the reluctant Poison Ivy, failed thespian Clayface, disgraced former member of the Legion of Doom, Dr. Psycho, and the delightful and very accepting King Shark. Her team is also occasionally aided by Poison Ivy's landlord, Cy Borgman, who in his youth may or may not have committed multiple war crimes while running Black Ops missions for the US government. Her crew assembled, Harley begins her journey to become Gotham's greatest villain. However, Harley quickly comes to the realization that as well as her ex-boyfriend, the Injustice League and the small issue of Batman, all seeking to put an end to her ambitions, what actually could be her greatest obstacle is in fact herself. Main theme and intro. Well, it's short. We're going to take a break with tradition and instead listen to the end credits, as I think it's a big part of the show's identity. It's fun, upbeat and brash, fitting with the comedic tone of the series and making you want more. It is also worth noting that on some of the more somber episode endings, the soundtrack is changed to fit this. Story and characters. The series was written and developed by Dean Lorey, Justin Samuel and Patrick Schumacher, who also produced alongside Warner's animation powerhouse Sam Register and star of the show, Kaylee Cuoco. Sam Register is basically responsible for all modern Warner Bros. Animation, producing on everything DC animation-wise that include DC Superhero Girls, Young Justice, and most importantly, Teen Titans Go. Dean Laurie's previous work includes co-writing on the movies Major Payne and Animal Crackers, as well as television series My Wife and Kids, Arrested Development, The Crazy Ones, Those Who Can't, and iZombie. He is also the author of the children's book series Nightmare Academy. Patrick Schumacher, as well as writing on several of the previous mentioned shows, has written and produced on Cougar Town, How to Be a Gentleman, and the series Shit My Dad Says. Justin Samuel Halpin is the author of the Twitter feed Shit My Dad Says, and the best-selling book Shit My Dad Says. He was also the co-writer and co-executive producer of the series based on that book, starring William Shatner. His second book, I Suck at Girls, was also the basis for the 2014 series Surviving Jack. All three had previously worked together on the short-lived and underappreciated sitcom Powerless, which was set in an alternative version of the DC universe, focusing on the lives of normal people living with the day-to-day real dangers of superheroes and supervillains, and was also the last live-action appearance of iconic Batman actor Adam West before his passing. Harley as a character has gone through a lot of changes over the years. Originally starting off as a quirky and fun addition to Batman's rogues gallery, she would over the course of the series have more focus and development. One major part of her mythology is her abusive relationship with the Joker, which was best demonstrated in the Batman the Animated Series episode Mad Love. As her popularity grew and writers in the comics were given more opportunities to develop her, Harley broke away from the Joker to find her own path. However, what makes Harley unique is that she is not a hero. She is a thief and, I suppose more importantly, a violent murderer. But that doesn't mean that she doesn't have people she cares about and wants the approval of, and that is the strength of this series. The series also includes the writing talent of Jane Becker, whose work includes writing in various roles on The Simpsons, Ted Lasso, Rick and Morty, Supermansion, Final Space, and the awesomely funny Future Man. Jess Dweck, who has written regularly for Jimmy Fallon, as well as Big Mouth, Medical Police, and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Adam Stein, whose writing credits include The Pete Holmes Show, Teen Titans Go, Designated Survivor, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Sabrina Giles has worked in various roles in the industry, including writing on Baroness von Sketch Show, Crowded, and Powerless. Sarah Peters, who worked on Master of None, Workaholics, Alone Together, and Making History. Sarah Nevada Smith, who has worked on Blark & Son, Best Friends Forever, and New Girl. Jameson Borak, whose work includes Misdirection, Surviving Jack, and Powerless. And Tom Hinman, who has worked on the shows The Mindy Project and Alcatraz. The writers expect the audience to know the basics of the source material, allowing the more out-there characters and elements of the comics to be explored. Harlequin is set in a far more tongue-in-cheek, borderline parody reality of the DC universe. However, the series finds a good balance between having the characters being poked fun at, but still be effective in their roles. The series begins with a slightly more comedic take on the Joker and Harley's relationship and the circumstances of their breakup. The Joker is depicted as more of a petty ex, making things as difficult as he can for Harley, believing it will dissuade her and lead her back to him. But instead it spurs her on even more to prove him wrong. As the series progresses, we are introduced to Harley's supporting cast and the larger universe they all inhabit. Clayface in this version is 100% played for laughs, reimagined as a failed thespian who has very grand illusions of his acting talents. King Shark is also a massive departure from his comic counterpart, in this version being more of a gentle giant with a kind heart and very valuable social networking skills. Dr. Psycho is a former A-list villain who, after this unfortunate altercation revealing his misogynistic ways, is deemed unsuitable as a representative of the Injustice Society. Harley bringing them together gives them purpose, and the crew go through some really fun capers together. However, the other main factor of the show is Poison Ivy, Harley's best friend and the only person to really understand and support her. And their dynamic is one of the strongest parts of the show. Initially reluctant to help, Ivy becomes more and more drawn into Harley's adventures. The surprise third main character of this series comes in the unexpected focus of Commissioner Gordon, who in this universe has issues. As a result of being under constant stress as Gotham's commissioner, has had a total nervous breakdown, which has resulted in a delusional belief that he has a bromance with Batman. It's really something I didn't expect from this series, but it's also one of the best character arcs. And I think that this is what makes the show so strong. Its cast is full of iconic superheroes and villains, but it's the unique take that the writers go with them that makes the show so fun to watch. They also do a good job with Batman, who has certain elements played to terrific comic effect, his squabbling relationship with a mothering Alfred being particularly funny. But at the end of the day, he's still Batman, and is a major threat to Harley and her crew. The show is also not concerned with maintaining the expected status quo, a lot happens over the course of the first series, allowing the writers to really have fun with characters, including the Riddler, Two-Face, the Penguin, and Lex Luthor, as well as some unexpected standouts including Queen of Fables, Cyborgman, and I never thought I would say this, Kite Man. A vicious rivalry between him and the Condiment King is one of my favourite moments. Frank the Plant, an original character created for the series, is also a standout, but without question, the surprise star of the show is Bane. Again, a character altered for better comedic effect, everything Bane says is hilarious. An utterly shameless parody of Tom Hardy's Dark Knight Rises voice. What makes it so funny is how utterly disrespected Bane is by his villainous colleagues. He's been written as the awkward guy in the office who means well, but is just the worst to be left alone with. Design and style. The art director for the series is veteran of the industry Bill Ray, who has worked in various animation roles and has also written and produced on shows including He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Dexter's Laboratory, Dog Dodgers, SpongeBob SquarePants, The Ren and Stimpy Show, Samurai Jack, and was the character designer on Space Jam. There's a very special place in my heart for Space Jam. Harlequin's design and style is reasonably simple, and bears a lot of similarities with other productions from Warner Bros. Animation. It's a very bright and vibrant colour palette, which is surprising for a show predominantly set in Gotham City, but it works tonally with the show's narrative and humour, giving the characters and backgrounds a real energy. Of the character designs, Poison Ivy is probably my favourite. I just think her jacket looks cool. Cyborgman's look is very fun as well, and how they have presented Commissioner Gordon really conveys the unhinged man he has become. If I was to make one gripe, it would be for Harley's main look. Primarily the hot pants, which I think is a bit much, but I suppose it's because I am a bit of a prude. Action. The action in this series is fantastic, always inventive and just gloriously violent, tying in beautifully with the show's dark sense of humour. Every episode has a unique setting and set piece, and the writers make full use of the animation format's bigger potential for scope and spectacle. The first 2 seasons of the show features the work of director Cecilia Aranovich, who, as well as directing several episodes, acted as supervising director on the majority of the series. Her work includes Pink Panther and Pals, Bob's Burgers, DC Superhero Girls and their spin-off movies, Hero of the Year and Legend of Atlantis. Joining her are June Meza-Leon, who has directed on Kung Fu Panda, Legends of Awesomeness, Rick and Morty, and 2012's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Vinton Huke, whose work includes Transformers Prime and co-directing the movie Transformers Prime Predacons Rising, as well as episodes of Young Justice, The Batman, and Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Colin Heck, who directed 15 episodes of the incredible Legends of Korra and 2016's Ben 10, Brandon McKinney, who has worked in various roles on shows including Justice League Unlimited, Batman the Brave and the Bold, Justice League Action, and Stretch Armstrong and the Flex Fighters. Tom DeRosier, who has worked on The Lion Guard, Wolverine in the X-Men, and the very underappreciated Green Lantern the Animated Series, and Christina Sotter, who has been heavily involved in various DC animated productions, was also the co-director on the epic Justice League Dark, Apocalypse War. Soundtrack. Composer Jefferson Friedman previously worked with Justin Halpin, Patrick Schumacher and Dean Lorey on Powerless, and has worked on shows including New Amsterdam and Red Hot American Summer, First Day at Camp. I love this soundtrack. The previously mentioned intro and outro goes perfectly with the art design and humour, especially when it comes to the action. There are some clever rearrangements of the main score used throughout the episode that work incredibly well in key moments. Friedman has also composed some standout music that captures genuine emotional beats for Harley and the supporting cast. Voice cast. Harley Quinn is played by Kaylee Cuoco. Best known for her role as Penny in The Big Bang Theory, Cuoco is amazing in this, clearly relishing the chance to play someone so unique and iconic, and drop a fair few F-bombs while she's at it. It was Cuoco's decision to not use Harley's Brooklyn-esque accent, which allowed for her to bring something new to the character. As a result, she owns every scene she is in. However, doing just as great a job is Lake Bell as Poison Ivy, whose previous work includes Medical Police and Children's Hospital. Though the show is predominantly about Harley, Poison Ivy is often a major focus, and Lake Bell just nails it with conveying Ivy's complicated and vulnerable personality, while also being incredibly funny with her line delivery. Fans of Firefly will be happy to hear that Alan Tudyk is beautifully cast as the Joker and Clayface. He plays Joker as a petty, narcissistic jerk, but also conveys the sheer dangerousness of the character without going too over the top. Like Cuoco, he very much makes Joker his own. Ron Fuchs, as well as starring in Powerless, has also appeared in Bob's Burgers, Future Worm and Final Space. He brings a real likeability to King Shark, playing him as compassionate and at times almost childlike. Arrested Development's Tony Hale, like Kaley Cuoco, is relishing the chance to play a more outrageous character, and just smashes it as the diminutive, woman-hating Dr. Psycho. Seinfeld's Jason Alexander is excellent casting as Cy Borgman, being the first to portray the character outside of the comics. He's joined by fellow Seinfeld alum Wayne Knight as the Penguin, who is clearly having a good time. Also, one of my favourite performances in the show is J.B. Smoove as Frank the Plant. Probably best known as Leon from Curb Your Enthusiasm, he has also appeared in American Dad, Arrested Development, and did a fantastic bebop in 2012's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Christopher Maloney, who's no stranger to playing unhinged, intense characters, is inspired casting as Commissioner Gordon. His previous work includes Law & Order Special Victims Unit, Happy, American Dad, Surviving Jack, True Blood, and Man of Steel. But that doesn't really come close to covering his career. Matt Oberg does the impossible and infuses Kite Man with a balance of utter cringe and endearing likability. Giancarlo Esposito, best known for playing the villain in Breaking Bad, the villain in The Mandalorian, and the villain in The Boys, is great as series main villain Lex Luthor. Jokes aside, I love this guy. Clancy Brown is a hard act to follow, and again this series allows another great actor to make the role their own. Oscar-winning writer Jim Rash, who has done voice work on Mike Tyson Mysteries and 2017's DuckTales, but is probably best known for his role as the Dean on Community, is solid casting as the Riddler. Wanda Sykes is, for lack of better words, just brutal as Queen of Fables, giving Kaley Cuoco a real run for her money in every scene she's in. Comedian James Adomain is Bane. As mentioned earlier, he just steals the show with every scene he is featured in. Dr. Octopus himself, Alfred Molina, also makes an appearance as Mr. Freeze, and the legendary Michael Ironside returns to voice Darkseid, a character he has voiced in LEGO DC and the Bruce Timm DC era. But without question, the coolest decision the creators made was having Napoleon Dynamite's Rex Kwon Lo himself, Dietrich Bader, reprise his role as Batman. After originally playing him in Batman the Brave and the Bold, Dietrich Bader is a massive presence in acting and voice work, including Green Lantern the Animated Series, Phineas and Ferb, Gravity Falls, The Secret Saturdays, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, King of the Hill, Justice League Action, and Ultimate Spider-Man. But he is pitch-perfect casting for this interpretation of Batman. The Clancy Brown effect. Whenever I watch any cartoon, the first thing I check is, does it feature Clancy Brown? Clancy Brown is one of the all-time greats of cinema and television. Most famous for his roles are as the Kurgan in Highlander and Lex Luthor in the Bruce Timm DC era. Still to this day, the best Lex Luthor. The man has done a lot of voice work over the years, to the point where his presence has almost been a constant in shows I watched growing up. As a result, any show not featuring him will never in my eyes be truly great. No. Oh, Harlequin, you were doing so well. However, at the time of making this, Season 3 had not come out, so there is still a chance to rectify. How meta is it? Though it is reinterpreting certain elements and characters, Harlequin is still fully immersed in the DC universe, and is full of references to past media and famous story arcs, mainly in the form of throwaway lines and visual Easter eggs. A moment between Lucius Fox and Alfred is taken straight from Batman Begins. Bane's prison from Dark Knight Rises is parodied as now a place for criminals to redirect their violent urges into positive creative projects. The New Gods also get some fun focus, and one episode even breaks the fourth wall and addresses the Snyder Cut. Batman the Animated Series influences in particular you can see throughout the show, and what I found interesting was their take on Mr. Freeze. Bruce Timm and Paul Dini famously reinvented the character, changing him from laughingstock to tragic villain. The writers take this version of Mr. Freeze, but subvert the audience's expectations, resulting in a story direction utterly unique to this series, but still oddly faithful. I think it's great to see a new generation of writers develop fresh ideas from what inspired them, much like how Bruce Timm and his writing team did with Batman the Animated Series. Harlequin's ability to balance its comedy with its storytelling is a real achievement, and something the writers even boast about in an increasing meta way as the series progresses. And well, I am all about the meta. 5 Megaminds. I'll be honest, when I first learned about this show, I was not that interested. I was tired of seeing characters like Harlequin and Deadpool go from little known to borderline overexposed in a very short space of time, and this announcement just seemed to be yet another cheap way to cash in on that success. But then this happened. and I realised that this show deserved a chance. Though it does play predominantly for laughs, there is genuine heart for both its characters and the material it's based on. But what also surprised me was the development of some of the cast. The Joker in particular is taken in a direction I would never have imagined. Simply put, Harlequin is just really funny, in both its visual humour and hilarious dialogue. It's also very likely the best thing DC has produced since Young Justice's first 2 seasons. I found season 3 a mixed bag. These versions of Harlequin, Poison Ivy, and of course Kite Man, I genuinely care about, and I want to see more of. If you haven't already, give it a go. Harlequin is a very worthy addition to the ever-growing mythology of the DC universe. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, then please feel free to like and subscribe, and perhaps check out some of my other content. Until next time.